good morning. Welcome to Sunrise Daily today. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
Another reminder, it's a Wednesday morning. It's wet in Lagos. It's still raining. Traffic is where it is. And it's 21st of September before Bukola reminds me again. Amaya Makinde, good morning and welcome.
Yeah, curious how it's September already. Well, yeah, gradually approaching the end of September. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily on Channels Television. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo.
You know, last week, different people just kept on telling me, you know, when you see the thunder, the lightning, those are indications for them that the rainy season in Abuja is just, you know, just fizzling out. But goodness me, that appears not to be the case at all, because this morning, boy, it's just been raining crazy. It's just cat and dog. It's all over the place. And of course, you know how it is in this part of the world. The different things disrupted when the heavens open up like that. So it is very much the same here. So sometimes these things, they just get off the charts. But then, we'll do what we have to do, adjust, and get a move on. We can't put life on hold. The show must go on, as they say.
Absolutely.
But speaking about the show going on, you know, yesterday, guys, when the latter part of the interview we had, several with the Commissioner for Justice and Attorney General in Lagos about the traffic laws, there's still getting a lot of people just asking the question, commenting, giving their own experience concerning what they've been through in Lagos, how they think certain things should be done differently. Remember the example that the commissioner gave, guys, when he spoke about a certain person who took pictures saying that he was led by Lagos traffic management officials into taking the one way. So he says, well, there was no sign there, which we also did ask the commissioner about signage. There was no sign, there was no indication, so they lured him into there, only for them to clamp down. So he says, well, you have to go to court and just ensure you prove some of those cases. And remember the narrative that, look, they have to ensure that there are signs. If there are fines, if there are laws to guard or stop people from violating or flouting the rules, then the state authorities have got to make sure that those signs are there. Because, look, yes, they're reviewing the laws, so in other words, maybe one way to ensure that that is done is put penalties there too. If the state don't make sure that those signage are there, then there'll be measures, punitive measures that they can face. Maybe that way, everybody, both parties will be on guard to ensure that they all play their part and their role. But we equally took him through some of those laws. And then, yes, he spoke about driving without valid license, violating the rules. For instance, we just did this simple comparison. If you look at the Lagos State traffic laws, the violation, the first one, the very first one you see right there, guys, about driving without valid driver's license, 2 points, and then you get to see the fine for first offender is 20,000 naira. Now, subsequent offender is 20,000 naira as well. But look at the penalty, guys. Impound vehicle, then additional payments for removal, storage, and evidence of payments for the license. So that's just one of it. But then you equally get to see several others. If, for instance, you're driving with a fake number plate, it's 4 points, and then the first offender, 20,000 naira. Second or subsequent offender, you get to pay 30,000 naira. And then, look at the penalty, guys. Imprisonment for a term of 6 months. That is what that law says. But if you then go to that of the Federal Road Safety Code, so remember there are federal laws and state, and then, for instance, now, in the federal law, where you look at vehicle license violation, they call it VLV. The penalty, guess, 3,000 naira, and it's a category 2 offense. So people have looked at that comparison, the wide disparity, and they just thought, oh dear. But yes, their own version of driving, sorry, it says driver's license violation, DLV. the fine here, the penalty is 10,000 naira, and it's a category 2 offense compared to Lagos, which doubles that. So they thought, whoa, why is Lagos that punitive? Why are they that hard, the hardline stance that they've got? So yes, the commissioner says it's been reviewed. So perhaps a simple comparison of some of these laws. So the wide gulf between the federal charges and penalty and that of the state, because they say, look, the one for Lagos is not commensurate to reality of what people are facing. Now, if some persons, for instance, there was a case of someone who, yes, violated the rules, but the person didn't have any money, the fine was 30,000 naira. And it says, when he got to the court, the lawyers asked him, they asked him, you have to get a lawyer to represent you. He said, look, and guess how much the fee was? 20,000 naira. He says, I don't even have the 30,000. I didn't even have anything close to that. How much more to pay for this? So eventually he was asked to represent himself. He did. The magistrate sentenced him to, I think, 1 or 2 months in prison. He did the time in prison. Upon his release, he went seeking for the vehicle, thinking, look, I've served the term. I've learned my lesson. And then they told him, no, your vehicle has been impounded by the authorities. And he thought, well, after doing the time, my vehicle too is gone. So the things that people keep asking, they have to look through and ensure that those are reviewed. And then the measures too for the state officials to ensure that they don't take undue advantage of persons that need to also come into the equation. So now that he says the laws have been reviewed, they might as well look at some of these points, guys.
Chamberlain, a few times when we spoke about this, I think I remember you would say something like, traffic offenses sometimes is cash cow. Maybe this is one of those ways in which this is being done by this state government. And who knows which other state government of all the 35 other states and the FCT are thinking in that direction. But the harshness of it most certainly is something that is concerning. In all of the laws, Chamberlain, that you quoted, and that particular document that you looked at, I'm talking about the Lagos state law now, 13 offenses attract vehicle being impounded. 13. Some of them are as simple as, you said, maybe just driving against traffic in an area where you don't even know. And don't also forget, we raised the question yesterday with the Commissioner for Justice. What if they are official vehicles? Are last mile vehicles permitted on BRT lanes? Last mile vehicles, not because there are also vehicles called BRT enforcement or monitoring team or something like that. Are police vehicles permitted on that route? Do those laws separate those ones from that? And I think, that collaboration is absent on the one hand. But then looking at the humaneness, and I think we raised this issue yesterday of the humaneness or otherwise of the law. The people in the House of Assembly in Lagos State were employed by the people in their various localities to make laws to help them govern the state better. Yes, we know that there are those who are miscreants, who are unruly, who are habitually like that. That's understandable. But do these laws permit traffic offenders to continue, especially those that are commercial, knowing that at the end of the day, at the end of that offense, is just one thing. Some officer is there to collect money from them and give them the pass, and that is it. Are these things being looked at? Well, I'm happy that the commissioner also said yesterday that if you notice something, there are ways to report them to the state government. Let's see how that goes. I'm happy also that even on Twitter, just yesterday while the conversation was going on, a lot of people were pouring up some invectives, some just reporting the issues, some just putting out the word out there that this is what we are going through in this city, irrespective of what part of the state it is. Good, that is there. But how well are those things being sifted? I think the National Assembly, the House of Assembly needs to come out and explain some of these things. That's on the one hand. On the other hand is the unit of government that is enforcing this law. Call them, I think the task force or something. Their spokesman is always out there speaking. Let him also come out to the public and explain how these things go. What are the challenges they are having, if they are having challenges that people need to sympathize with. But by and large, 13 offenses, attracting your vehicle being impounded in an economy such as we are, I think it needs some reviewing. Bukola, what do you think?
Interesting, Ayo. You said something about, traffic offenses, traffic management being a cash cow. And it reminds me of, sometime back during the administration of former governor in Lagos State, Akinwumi Ambode, when the vehicle inspection officers, had to be withdrawn from the streets of Lagos. There were a lot of complaints back then that, it was more of a revenue generation drive for the state government rather than holding motorists accountable. But make no mistake about it, violation of traffic offenses should not be encouraged. There are communities in Lagos where there is indiscriminate parking of vehicles on the right of way. And I guess that's now being addressed by the state government with a new inclusion in the tenancy laws, to the extent that when a landlord does not make provision for a parking space in his premises, then he has to pay, for parking on the right of way of government. But more importantly, who is enforcing that, and what is the objective of that law if it is not to deter landlords from, not making provision for a parking space in their premises? If it is not to deter, then that law has been defeated. The objective of that law has been defeated. But the point we're making here is that traffic offenses must not be encouraged. And it seems as if the action, to ensure compliance with traffic rules is at the state level, not necessarily. We're not seeing the same action at the local government level, where there's also, abuse, violation of similar laws. But then again, talking about the flurry of reactions to the conversation yesterday, where so many were asking a lot of questions. I recall someone saying that why are there cameras in the Lekki area and there are no cameras in other parts of Lagos? Valid question there. And, it's in relation to the question that I also asked the Commissioner for Justice yesterday about how enforcement is not thorough. It doesn't cover, especially those who are violating traffic offenses on the highways daily. Is it a right of jurisdiction? Is it a problem of capacity? These are the concerns that government must address. Why must motorists who are driving SUVs and cars, make to face the music, where those who are also violating traffic offenses, who are driving articulated vehicles, are not compelled to face the music? And of course, the attendant consequences of those articulated vehicles are in our faces every day. Many have been maimed, many have lost their lives. So when are we going to get to the point in this country where compliance with traffic rules, the process of ensuring that is automated, such that the company or the owner of the vehicle gets the mail in his device, mobile device, or in his computer, saying that you have violated a traffic offense, and then you have to pay? Why are the streets not marked? And I've had a personal experience as well, where I was new in a community, the street was not marked, and then we were driving into that community. We didn't know it was a one-way driving kind of thing, and then we had to face the music as well. So why are streets not marked? There's so many angles to this conversation, so many areas that government must take a second look at. And then we can't say it enough that who's going to make government accountable for motorists driving on highways that are not lit? I recall during one of our conversations where Ayo brought to our attention that it's against the law for motorists to put on their headlamps when they're driving at night. And that is as a result of, that kind of driving is as a result of poorly lit highways, where motorists have, as a matter of necessity, must put on their headlamps. So the issues are myriad. We can't talk enough about it. I hope somebody's listening.
Well,
very interesting, isn't it?
Well, yes, indeed, guys. So we also do hope that, but I'm sure they will. Listen, I hope as well as you did do, Bookie, that somebody is listening. But just give us a moment. We'll be back with a look at some of the front pages. All right, welcome back. Let's run you through some of the dailies here today. We start with Daily Times this morning, 2023. INEC releases final list of candidates. That's the big lead on the front page of Daily Times this morning. And look at the writers. Claire's Tinubu, Atiku, Obi, Kwankwaso, others for presidency. OK's Kachiku, despite suspension by ADC. Akpabio makes list of senatorial candidates. Lawan's name missing. 4,223 candidates to vie for 469 National Assembly seats. So that was the big one yesterday. INEC did come up with that list. So many are looking to see the next list. This was for the presidential, senatorial, and House of Representatives. So we're looking forward to the very next one. And then at the bottom strip right there, strike. House of Reps, ASU agree to meet Buhari, others. Well, you do remember that the president had said, I think when he met with pro-chancellors and things like that they may reconsider their stance. And the students themselves are getting their voices heard in different parts of the country. They are also not, I think they decided not to idle by any longer because they're trying to take their destiny in their hands, in a manner of speaking. So, hence the protests you've seen in different parts of the country. But they need to pay serious attention to that because, yes, we know how it started. But the thing about these things is that you just never know how it will end. You never really know. So, that's what you see right here. And by the way, Senate, the National Assembly did resume. But Senate decides Ariwola's status as substantive CJN today. And so you wonder, in addition to several letters that have been read on the floor of the nationals of both chambers, the southern governors or the northern governors recently agreed to the importance or the need for state police, and their southern counterparts, saying, yeah, that is what we've been waiting for all along. So now that that has been agreed amongst all the governors, what is the National Assembly waiting for? Isn't that the very next stage that we should get to? They should get down to work almost immediately. Yes, it's the 8th Assembly, it's the 9th. Okay, they will be winding down, yes, but it's not over until it's over, isn't it what they say? Well, there you go. That's our Daily Times this morning anyways.
Daily Independent this morning is towing the same line as Daily Times, and look at the front page, but this is their angle to it. INEC releases final list as Obi, Atiku, Tinubu draw battle lines. That's the lead of the paper this morning. Look at the writers. Umahi Akpabio make list, senatorial candidates. Lawan missing. Governor Obaseki loses as INEC recognizes Obi's camp candidates. Find the details of that on the inside page, continues on the inside pages. Right under the picture of the president and some members of his cabinet at the ONGA General, the story says Buhari asks Senate to okay fresh 402 billion naira loan. Find out the details of all of that on the inside pages of the paper this morning. And right under that story in red, Sanwo-Olu to would-be investors, Lagos is ready for you. With its laws, I guess. That's the Daily Independent this morning.
Well, I hope with just the laws and no other surprises. From Daily Independent, let's take a look at leadership newspapers this morning. And it starts differently, unlike others. It goes this way. The big story is captioned this way. 219 days after NAS, that's the National Assembly, wades into ASU strike, wants federal government, union to shift ground. Let's take a look at the riders. We've made progress. That's according to the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Gbajabiamila. ASU warns against court injunction to resume work. Students to ground Abuja Airport today. Kaduna government bans planned protest on Kaduna-Abuja Road. You'll find all of those details on page 4 of the leadership newspapers. By the way, did we see the daughter of Mr. President and the wife of the president graduating yesterday in a university in the United Kingdom?
I was busy looking out for ASU and the students. So.
Yeah, you were busy looking out for. Well, I was too, but that just caught my attention. Well, let's take a look at other stories this morning. Crude oil theft may ground nation's economy. That's beneath the nameplate, and that's the Senate speaking this morning. And finally, before we exit the leadership newspapers, there's this one just beside the picture on the front page at the bottom corner. ISWAP kills 2 Boko Haram commanders in supremacy tussle. That's the leadership newspapers this morning.
I'll take a look at New Telegraph next. They also focus on 2023 presidential poll. INEC declares Tinubu, Atiku, Obi, 15 others. Declares, I should say. So, omits Lawan's name, lists Akpabio's, says 4,223 candidates eyeing National Assembly, 1,101 for 109 Senate, and 3,122 for 360 reps seats. So all of them will go ahead and slug it out for positions in those areas. And then, they equally follow up on what the President of the Senate did say. Oil thefts killing Nigeria's economy. Ascribed to Lawan. I mean, you don't need any soothsayer of rocket science to let us know this, but the question should be, what are they doing about it? How are they taking that on? They've seen this report. Several committees have appeared before the National Assembly. They had all this information. In fact, they will have a lot more information than regular people out there. So what are they doing about it? That should be what they should be talking about, not just the fact that, yes, it's killing the economy, and we know that. Okay, so, and then you see this FG, Nigeria needs $20 billion investments to grow energy sector. That's New Telegraph, guys.
Look at the front page of this Nigerian. What do you have on its front page? Well, something that's also captured in the paper that that Chamberlain took a little while ago. It's about crude oil thefts. And how does this Nigeria capture it? That's it right there. Senate raises alarm over crude oil theft. It will push economy into coma, says Lawan. Find the details of that on page 4. I'm wondering why we're even putting this on the head, because it's not like we don't know that these things are happening. And I maintain this confidence that I have, Bukola, and that's the fact that, as far as I'm concerned, we have an intelligence community in this country. There is no way such a thing will be happening and they will not know. The question is, what are we doing about the intelligence? I guess, let me just leave it there.
So many questions have been asked and so many insinuations made. I don't think we should be re-echoing those insinuations this morning.
Okay. Well, right above that story is also related. Price of cooking gas rises by 101% in 1 year. Just about the same time we're talking about moving from firewood to gas. Well, countless issues for whoever is in government or vying for office in government to have to contend with. That's this Nigerian newspaper today.
From this Nigeria, I wonder if we've taken Daily Trust newspapers. Yeah, Daily Trust newspaper is next, and let's take a look at the big story. It will catch your fancy, and it's captioned this way: primaries, despite generating billions, APC faces fresh cash crunch. Party in debt, owes staff, committee members yet to be paid. 3 months after, fund being spent on running of party. That's according to the spokesperson of the party. Well, that's a pretty interesting story. And you find the details on page 6 of Daily Trust newspapers. So who's asking the questions? What happened to the hundreds of millions of naira generated from presidential expression of interest and nomination forms? I guess the party has a lot of explaining to do, especially to staff who are being owed. We hope we don't get, an industrial action also from political party staff. That would be interesting, don't you think, Ayo?
Well, I guess we're going to have to wait and see because, hey, do we need an auditor to come?
Maybe. All right. Let's look beneath the nameplate this morning. You'll find some more interesting stories. There's this one: Buhari seeks Senate approval for 402 billion naira promissory notes. And of course, we've captured the story on crude oil theft. Let's take a look at the next one after that one in the middle position. 3.1 billion naira for Kano Emirates as Ganduje doubles monthly allowances. That's the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Chamberlain?
On to the Guardian newspaper next this morning, and you can see FG to leave behind 60.9 trillion naira debts, other liabilities in 2023. That is how they reflect it here today. Buhari seeks Senate approval for 402 billion naira promissory notes that Odili is equally highlighted. And then FG states more aggressive in local debt mobilization. State external debt exposure falls by 78.3 billion in 6 months. Okay, you'll need to check if it's naira or dollars in the paper. Local debt rises by over 18% in same period. Government silent on CBN overdrafts, undocumented subnational debts. So you just wonder, undocumented? What are we doing? How are we? Should it even come up, undocumented subnational debts? How do we then plan if these things are undocumented? How do you guard against corruption, against individuals just, expending or fritting away, going away with all of that funds if it's undocumented? It gives room for a lot of things, I might add. And then at the bottom strip, they equally have that Lawan loses out, Sopabio, Umahi makes INEC's final lists. Yeah, so all of that, all here for you on the front page of the Guardian newspaper, pardon me.
Well, Chamberlain, I don't think there is any such thing as undocumented because how do you explain it is not documented? There's only one explanation. Someone refused to document what is documented somewhere else. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a presenter. Vanguard newspaper this morning has this one on its front page. Presidency, INEC clears Atiku, Tinubu, Obi, 15 other stories on page 8 of the paper. And of course, the writers said pretty much the same as others this morning. But this is a little different. Kaduna kidnap. We're back to sad stories despite victory songs. That's ascribed to Can. That's something that should give anyone concern. And find several other stories on the front page. But let me quickly take Mr. and Mrs. this morning. Mrs. is standing before a doctor, and the doctor is saying, "Madam, I hope your husband is taking his drugs. His blood pressure was too high last time we met." And Mrs. says, perhaps happily, "No, doctor, he didn't take the drugs. His blood pressure became normal. Immediately he received his salary." That's the Vanguard newspaper today.
Well, that blood pressure was something of in the nature of flash floods, wasn't real.
Well.
Okay, from Vanguard newspapers, let's take a very quick look at the Nigerian News Direct. It also leads with that big story from the Independent National Electoral Commission. And it's captioned this way: 2023, Lawan missing from senatorial candidates as Tinubu, Atiku, Obi, 15 others make INEC lists. That's on page 22 of the Nigerian News Direct. You also find this very interesting one. It's above the nameplate, in the middle position to be precise. 2023, 74% citizens no longer feel safe living in Nigeria. That's attributed to NOI polls. That's an interesting one. And little wonder that Jakpa is the new street parlance, and every young Nigerian is working towards it. It's really sad. But before we leave the Nigerian News Direct this morning, there's also this one right beside the exit, or the percentage of Nigerians feeling unsafe. It's captioned this way: NCC deploys 84 IT projects to support persons with disabilities. Way to go. It's not all doom and gloom. Mm-hmm. That's the Nigerian News Direct.
And from that, we take a short break. And when we return, it'll be time to begin to take a look at the issues we have on the table for you today. Please stay with us. Some very interesting comments have been coming out from various angles about the quality of political communication in the build-up to the 2023 elections. Several events happening, of course, including the one that you just saw now. But let's begin a conversation around this among the political parties as they vie for votes. Matthias Sado is PDP stakeholder and a former presidential aspirant. He joins us virtually. Thanks for joining us this morning. Now, one of the natural things that will worry anyone is the quality of communication that is coming out. Most of the time, you may also have observed that the campaigns usually go around, throwing shades at the other party as opposed to talking about the programs and procedures that the party that is making the statements need to put out. I like to ask you, from 1999 until now, how would you assess the level of political communication, intra-party and inter-party?
Okay, thank you very much, Aya. Good morning. I think clearly we can see that as a country, our conversations have centered around the fact that we didn't really get to understand the purpose of democracy before it was given to us. A lot of people clamored for democracy. Simply, I think at that time, in 1998, the conversation was civil rule. And because there were no proper we should talk about. Everybody just joined into this bandwagon of we want to be leaders of the country without even knowing what was the rule, what was the purpose of governance. I have always maintained that if you are recruiting someone into an organization, a job role, in our society, we have neglected that conversation. It has been relegated to the background. A lot of people don't even understand what is the purpose of governance. People just think that for you be in government, it is an opportunity for you to amass wealth for yourself. And so you can see that the clamor for political position in Nigeria, it is not centered around the most important issues. And so that is even people are not actually necessarily talking about what you are bringing to the table, what you're going to bring to the society. Everybody is just saying, oh, it is so person's turn. It is the turn of so region. It is turn of so organization. It is turn of so religion. Now, we must first of all go back to the government in a society. First and most important thing is law and order. We have neglected this. Because that is not in the conversation, people just go about clamoring for whatever. If we're able to define the fundamental things that are important to the society, then we can now begin to center our conversations around those issues. And I think. And I'm not here to campaign for the party, but I'm here to mention the fact that they have been able to give us some semblance of what we should be talking about. Alhaji Atiku Abubakar came out with a document that my covenant with the Nigerian people. And so anybody that wants to interrogate or wants to campaign or wants it that you are bringing to the table, just go into his document. And I think I should call on all other people who are contesting for positions to bring out their plans so that people can have documents or have idea. They can understand how your mind works and then be able to interrogate or ask questions around your own beliefs. What is your world view? What are you bringing to the Nigerian people? And I think that it's important that we're having this conversation at this time because it's very, very crucial.
Well, but then, it's not that politicians don't know these things. And I think you said something very, very crucial when you began by talking about the transition from military rule to civil rule. That was like a general caption at the time. But then you also remember that I think it was in 2015, the APC, kept talking about just one word, change. But it would seem like those are the only two major junctions that we had such slogans. I remember recently, Father Kuka, at an event recently, around this, political communication thing, said every campaign should have a slogan. That would seem like, political parties are only interested in winning elections. We win the elections and we continue everything the way we were. So there really isn't anything for people to hold on to and say, this is what we are going to hold against you if you do not perform.
You see, again, I'm going to do a lot of talking about what I know. And that is talking about campaign slogans or talking about your plans, talking about agenda. I remember very clearly in 2019, when some of us young people came out and said we wanted to run for office, we felt that the leaders as at that time, that the leaders, the people in government, majority of them do not even understand what they were doing. And so we came up with a lot of conversations and we had the opportunity to express to Nigerians. And I think that has given birth to a lot of conversation in the media these days. Everybody is talking about the fact that, yes, we need to change this system. But I'll call your attention to one of the things that Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has focused on. As one people, we can get it done. Unifier. So if you mention Alhaji Atiku Abubakar at the moment, you can see that we have something around him. And this is an example of what a campaign should be, that it is about unifying the country. It is about national integration. It is the bedrock of nation building. And if he is able to center his own conversation around that, I expect that we should be able to see what exactly is the APC bringing to the table. APC, like you mentioned, brought the idea of change. And in 2019, PDP said change the change. But as at now, I think we have learned the PDP has shifted from that particular position to look the key and most important things, which is the issue, the problems, the challenges that are facing an ordinary person in the country. President Goodluck Jonathan mentioned something. He said, without a nation, there is no way any of you can be president or be governor or be senators without us, first of all, having a united country, without us, first of all, having a nation that is united, working together as a team. There is no way we can make progress. And so I think it's paramount that these conversations are sustained. These issues, we don't get into the personality politics. We don't get into throwing shades at each other. We don't get into making mockery of individuals, but that you as a campaign, you as a team, you as a group, what exactly are you bringing to the Nigerian people? And we should give it to the PDP. They have shown leadership. They have shown leadership right from the convention period. They have shown leadership to the picking of the vice presidential candidate. We saw the other political parties were doing placeholder, something that was alien to Nigeria constitution and our democracy.
Mr. Sajo,
we have also seen. that the party has decided to lead in giving us a clear direction of what exactly the Nigerian people can ask. The reason why Atiku Abubakar is not afraid to confront any organization that invites him to have a conversation is because he has a working document.
Indeed, Mr. Sado, and many Nigerians watching you would find it interesting, albeit debatable, that the PDP has shown leadership. Well, will determine at the polls. They will determine at the polls if the PDP has shown leadership in the past or will show leadership in the future. But still on political communication, politicians want to go off on a tangent when campaigns begin at those campaign grounds. And if they do not, if they pay lip service to peace accords signed days to elections, will they show any form of commitment? Will they demonstrate any form of commitment to rancor-free political communication during the campaigns? How can this culture be changed? Are you optimistic? And I want you to be objective now, even though you're a member of the People's Democratic Party. Are you optimistic that based on what you see, they're going to show any form of commitment, however little, to the admonitions of a meeting that doesn't even necessarily target the people that will be at the campaign grounds when the campaigns begin?
Thank you, Buki. You see, the reason see people ramble and say all manner of things on campaign podiums, they don't even care whether people are listening to them or whether it is the things or the needs of the people that are being discussed. Have a campaign team or a campaign organization that has his agenda, his plans. You will be able to stand on the people. I want to be able to give you good roads. I want to be able to I want to be able to put food on your table. I want to be able to ensure that you are safe in your important to the people. But when a campaign or an organization or a team of people do not have such kind of idea or the agenda, you discover that when they get onto the podium, all that they will do is to scream, especially looking at the currency.
It appears we're having issues. We're having issues with your audio, but interesting perspectives that you're churning out there with that narrative about how it's important to ask questions, which is why I'm curious. I don't know if it's a possibility, while we address the audio issues, to change the culture at campaign grounds. You know, when the story is that most of those who are at campaign grounds are hired, they get a fee for appearance. Will they be able to demand accountability? Can the culture of participation at that level, you know, change such that the people can ask questions of the politicians who are bringing, whatever it is that they're offering, if they get elected to the table?
I think we're talking about political communication, right? But how about political education? I think that's where this whole thing is germane. So while we're talking about political communication now, which is among the politicians themselves, the concept of communication, you would know very well, is a cycle. It's a cycle. It begins with you encoding the message and someone else decoding it as you encoded it. Until there is mutual understanding, there isn't such a thing as communication. But whether or not that happens at the campaign grounds, that's another thing altogether. Then you also want to ask the question. For instance, I mean, we've referenced that political communication event where Father Kuka spoke, President of the Senate spoke, Speaker of the House of Representatives spoke, a number of other people, including the DG of NILDS, also spoke, and they all spoke to a myriad of things that should happen, and they're talking about campaigns. Now, one of the crucial things that I find very interesting is that the Speaker of the House of Representatives made a clear statement about what the laws provide concerning political education, political communication. Let's hope that is something that will be enforced by the authorities. Who will enforce it? I guess we'll also wait to see. Well, why, as you said, while we wait to find a way to address those audio issues, let's take a short break, take a message or two, and we'll be right back to continue the conversation. Well, thank you for staying with us. Well, we still have Mr. Sado with us, but just before I throw this back to you, Bukola, let me ask Mr. Sado that question, around, the laws, and I think you and I chatted about it earlier. Mr. Sado, if you can hear me well, you also saw those slides, that we put up the other time, particularly the one attributed to the Speaker of the House of Representatives, talking about the provisions of the law, the Electoral Act of 2022, concerning political campaigns and how those things should be focused on issues and devoid of sentiment. What are the chances of that law being stuck by politicians in particular across the length and breadth, irrespective of which office is being vied for, as low as a councillor or the House of Representatives? In your opinion, who should be compelling or enforcing that law should be obeyed?
Well, Ayo, it's going to be very difficult for you to bring law into campaign conversations in Nigeria. Buki said something while we were trying to sort out the connection. She said something about the fact that they hire crowd to come on campaign ground. So people who are generally there, they are just there to clap, to cheer up the campaign, to cheer up the gathering. So nothing necessarily is being communicated. But there is something that I think it's important, which will be for us to begin to have meetings like town hall meetings that is well organized by the candidates or the political parties in such a way that you are able to select certain group of people from the society that can be like representatives of maybe civil society organizations, that can be representatives of tribal groups.
Just 1 second, Mr. Sado. Mr. Sado, did you say that it is going to be difficult to bring the law into political campaigns?
Yes. Okay, Ayo, for instance, you are asking, I'm just trying to say that if you have a situation whereby you have a group of people who take, for instance, something that was said by Governor Yaya Bello recently, and where it was said in his language. And when people started asking, they started giving it all manner of interpretations. So how do you enforce a law with such kind of conversation? But what we should do is rather to encourage the leaders. And sincerely speaking, honestly, let us give it to Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. He has led in a very, very interesting way that he had communications with people. Let us bring out these people to television platforms. Let them communicate with people. Let them go into small groups. Let them speak to these people and let these groups be able to interrogate them. Let them be able to have conversation. It is one thing for someone to come on the campaign stage and shout, I will make Naira equals to $1. I will give you this. Then the people will just clap. But in a case where you are able to bring a proper conversation, that like we had the meeting you guys showed earlier on, there were people who were in the hall who understood what was being said, and if they were given the opportunity to ask questions or to contribute, they would have been able to do that in a way that there would be a proper understanding of what every one of us want us to do. If you want to bring a law,
Well, Mr. Sado,
Yes,
if the people can ask questions and contribute to the conversation at political campaigns level, then political education is at the heart of the matter, as Ayo said. Would pick up on that point after the break. We must go for a break now. Stay with Sunrise Daily. We'll be right back. Yes, welcome back, and thank you for staying tuned. We still have Mr. Matthias Sado with us, and we're looking at political communication, a very critical subject, especially as campaigns begin ahead of the 2023 general elections. Mr. Sado, you were making a point earlier about how critical it is for the people to ask questions. And I was saying that for questions to be asked, it is critical for the people to have also the right kind of education. Now, where that is lacking, especially as a result of poverty, how can the right questions be asked?
Okay, first of all, Buki, you see, it is not going to be at those campaign podiums where citizens are going to start asking questions. It will be in gatherings such as town hall meetings, whereby it is properly organized, where candidates have something that I would call an interface with a selected group of members of the society that would have a clear understanding what exactly are the rules of the person or the office that someone is trying to occupy. Someone who wants to be the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria must be conversant with the rules and the rules that his office, the responsibilities of his office. And the people who would be able to actually ask those kind of questions and be able to establish a proper communication will be people who also have a clear understanding what exactly are the responsibility of those positions. So first, we are not going to be able to educate every Nigerian to be able to ask the right questions. But those who are educated, what are we doing? What we are saying is, everybody is trying to show strength by gathering crowd. We are showing 1 million march. We are showing pictures from Katsina. 100,000 people have just decamped from APC to PDP. So these are things that would gradually taking us away from the real conversation. But if you have a selected group of people who are going to take, for instance, the meeting that is organized by LCCI, where candidates are expected to bring their ideas. What's your economic plan? What's the agenda? How do you intend to achieve these things? So by the time someone comes and says, I want to create 3 million jobs every month or every year, then the people who are sitting there can ask, how do you want to do this, sir? And you should be able to explicitly give a clear answer that convinces those people, and those people can now be able to give you perhaps a tick to say, oh yes, you have been able to satisfactorily answer my question. So I think that would be one of the things that can help us. If there are going to be organizations that would call those who are running for offices to come and sit down with them, have an interaction, and let these findings be made public, that, okay, this is what this candidate wants to do for you. An average Nigerian man is responsible for his own electricity, is responsible for his own house, his housing, is responsible for the roads to his house, responsible for virtually everything. Now, these are supposed to be things that we would tell Nigerians and say, these are the things that the government is supposed to do for you. If any one of them is coming and say he wants to run for office, look at the ideas that the person is coming with. If the person says he wants to create something for you that is not necessary, that is not specific to your area, you will not vote for that individual. Vote for those who want to address the issues that concern you. So I think these conversations will actually be had, not necessarily having to say every Nigerian must understand, but having a situation where a couple of people within the society can be our representatives who interrogate those who want to lead us.
Well, Mr. Sado, it turns out that the nature of our politics here is more or less transactional. And so it makes it a lot more difficult for some of these things to happen, because what we see lately is politicians, basically it's about their own interests. So they just mask it with saying it's about the interest of the people. And that's why what we've seen time and again, politicians across board, whichever one of them has occupied any political office, whichever party, they say some things that they're going to deliver. And in the long run, you don't get to see them deliver what they have promised that they were going to deliver. In fact, some say that that is why you see the kinds of support you get from, including members of the PDP and the APC, for some say the candidates of the Labour Party. They say that is in protest of their frustration of how the political class has run this country so far. But would it be a good idea if, for instance, in a way to ensure that perhaps politicians are a lot more accountable, we introduce midterm elections here? How feasible do you think that would be to addressing the questions of accountability on the part of politicians?
Well, I think, first of all, thank you, Chamali. I think that, you see, the Nigerian people, like I said, we've not been blessed with people who are able to give us information about themselves, about the society, about what their plans are, about their agenda. And so, yes, we see that there is a lot of frustration on with the Nigerian people. But again, about accountability in politics, it is the responsibility of the people to be able to interrogate, ask questions, ask the political players when they eventually become leaders in the society. But first of all, the people who are asking for the vote must understand that the vote that will make them leaders of the society comes from the people. When we begin to have a society where if a government does not perform, people can vote them out, it will become very, very important for those political parties to begin to behave themselves when they get into power. You are in a society where bad behavior has always been rewarded by another opportunity to go and misbehave. If you continue to have something like that, we're going to eventually run into problems. You said something about the fact that our politics is transactional. Yes, but then there are people, I for one, has never collected 1 naira from anybody to vote for them. There are people in the society as well who probably have not done that before. If you have a society whereby there are individuals who could, on their own, interrogate these questions, ask these questions, and then when you eventually become the leader in the society, they can ask you questions about what it is that you intend to do, how you do it, how to, as you behave in the office. These people are always checking on what you are doing. They are checking on the things that you are doing. They can write a letter to your office. They can call you out to, you see, one of the issues that we have seen in this country since President Muhammadu Buhari became the president of Nigeria for almost 7 years now. How many times has he communicated to the Nigerian people? How many times has he come out to have an interface? How many times has he organized, town hall of meetings to check what is the performance? How do you measure what we are doing? So introduction of midterm elections, I don't know if it is going to be what can solve the problem at the moment. But if we can have a situation whereby those of us who are not necessarily waiting for any kind of reward, that is personal or pecuniary reward to elect some people, can hold leaders to account. And like we have also seen in Nigeria political system, whereby we have seen that votes is beginning to count, that people who want to be leaders are now beginning to buy votes. So if votes are beginning to count, it means that we can now hold politicians to account. And when we are able to hold them accountable, then they can, it will help our conversation going forward.
Mr. Sado, in all of this, we've been talking about the role of leaders, politicians, and all. Let's see if we can hazard one or two guesses concerning what the electorates will do in this entire process. There are those who have said countless times, poverty has been weaponized against the people, unemployment has been weaponized against the people, so it would seem like it's the same cycle of promises that the electorates get all the time, plus the sentiments that are thrown in like some kind of spices from time to time. How do you suggest that the electorate would sift through the wheat and the shaft so that they can get the meat of the matter in all of this melee? What are your own recommendations? Speak as a Nigerian.
Okay, now, an individual comes out and says he wants to run for office. And the question is, why do you want to run for office? And the people who are going to be able to ask those questions are those who understand what exactly it is that the person's or the role that person wants to occupy, the responsibility of that office. Now, if you have a situation whereby anyone who wants to run for office understand that he is going to be put on a scale, he's going to be measured based on his ideas, his views, his background, his experience, and all those things. And individuals who want to come to run for office would have to come out prepared. So again, here is the thing. Those of us who are in the society who will say, oh, yes, we can ask questions about what you are bringing to the table, we must also come to the table. We must also get to the level whereby we are involved. We, as a group of people, could decide to organize a conversation. Let us have a roundtable conversation.
Sounds like you're giving Nigerians a checklist of what to do and what to look out for. It's really a good place to begin the conversation, Mrs. Sado, because for so many who have listened to you now, the question then is whether or not we will take these things to queue. Unfortunately, we'll run out of time. I wanted to listen to more of your views on what the electorates can do, but we have to thank you for this time. Matthias Sado is a former presidential aspirant and a member of the PDP. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you, Ariel.
We'll be back after now to take on more on this. Please stay with us.
All right, welcome back. Well, Mr. Pascal Udibo joins us next. He's a business and financial consultant. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, and thank you very much.
Well, there's been actually a lot of, you could call it political communication, making the rounds. The candidates themselves have been speaking about their intention, what they intend to do, but different groups also trying to ensure that they, before now, just try to rein them in or ensure that they maintain a certain track of decency in the manner of speaking. But in terms of the narratives that are out there, but first of all, if you could give us your impression about this call, this quest to ensure that politicians stay on track, focus on issues, how do you see this having the kind of effect that they want, those who are advocating that?
That's a very good, thank you very much, and good morning, Nigerians. I think that's a very good thing. I've been expecting that should occur, because some of the vitriol we are beginning to see on television was becoming very concerning. And I'm quite happy that I think the National Assembly yesterday or 2 days ago, is beginning to weigh on it. And not only is weigh on it, saying, listen, times have changed. I think I heard the speaker saying there are also laws now to rein people in. Now, this is good. In exorcism and spiritism, when you want to cast out a demon, you want to make sure that you yourself, you're not a demon. That's the most important thing.
Why is that proverbial? Could you make it as plain as
possible? What I mean is this. The people that should champion this should also make sure that they come to equity with clean hands, ensure that they themselves, this is an internal conversation, that they want an external reality. this is not just some verbose, some optics that is good. We say it, but in their own personal agenda and their own engagements, and this is not something they take as a philosophy. Nigeria is hurting, and it's unfortunate we're getting into an election in this mode. Nigeria needs to heal.
But how do you draw the line? Because, I mean, they will throw salvos at each other. They will dig up facts or perhaps dig up things that they think will give them an advantage over the other. Where do you draw the line?
The key thing here for me is the nation. There should be a national psyche of mutual respect. Now, philosophies are things that are imbibed over time. And in fact, the worrying one is that some educated people have joined in this fray, speaking in a manner that vitiates the fact that perhaps they went into the walls of any training institution. And that's what training does. What training does from primary school, secondary school, university, is to rein you into a corridor of decency. That's how societies grow. If you allow this kind of variance, the society boils. Either you're using religion or you're using ethnicity. After you win an election, you now need to govern. It will become difficult if any of those people win, if you have broken this fabric of the society so much. And so that's why this is important.
That's why people are asking that. How do we are we sure we can take their word for it? Because these same politicians, they take advantage of Nigerians' fault lines. They pitch religion, the ethnic groups, they pitch them all together because they want to win elections. And then the time for election, they say, well, you have to be decent about this. So people say, are we sure this is not just about them trying to stay off curved balls? Then afterwards, they go back and let people know.
And this is my take. I think 8 years or 20 years, 23 years of democracy, Nigerians have seen both PDP and APC, seen them at their elements. So I'll be very concerned if anybody in the streets needs to be convinced about these two parties. The concentration now should really be on any new entrant into the place. So is
this guided to the Labour Party?
No. I'm not talking about the Labour Party. I'm talking about how do we engage.
So it's a new entrant?
Yes, you need to look at what people, in the university, you have, this is an interview. The pre-elections and the campaigns are interviews for the chief executive of this country. And in the university, I'm sure all of us went there. After you do the written exam, you now come what they call Viva, where you come and speak to your document. All the 3 or the 4 major ones, they have the best hands that can put together an economic document, a political document. When they speak, because out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Your job as channels, and like LCCI is doing, like most other institution should be, is to draw these guys out to speak.
Okay.
It is in their speaking you can tell what is in their heart. Not the document. The document is good. It's a good thing. But the document can be put together by groups that have paid. Okay.
Some of the parties that some Nigerians consider as new entrants include the NNPP, include the Labour Party, include several other political parties, quite a number of them.
Yeah.
And then some of the people that the LCCIs have drawn out to speak. The PDP presidential candidate, Labour Party, has spoken only recently now, looking to get the third party, which is the third person, which is the presidential candidate of the APC. Now, for that of the Labour Party, who happens to be the most recent one who spoke a couple of days ago, he did outline some of the things he wants to do.
Yeah.
But those who are looking through that, but there will always be question marks about all those 3 parties. But for that of the Labour Party, having read and listened to the speech, he spoke about subsidy, he spoke about power, spoke about corruption. Was there any narrative that struck you?
Yes, what struck me in the narrative is, I was in that hall that day because I am appearing at those individuals' conversations. So I really want to hear them. I'm not particularly interested in their documents. I've said that before. Because it's in hearing them that you will see gods with clay feet. It's in their conversations and that as they speak. When someone is speaking, I'm a training consultant and I do that for a living. I've done that for 35 years. I look at you and I want to find out where you are speaking from. If you're speaking, you may have a paper you're speaking, but you're not speaking from the heart. Nigerians should look at the candidates right into how they are speaking and how they are able to communicate to them what they want to do. You see, what struck me with what the Labour Party guy was saying was that he will be in charge. And that for me is striking. I mean, given the experience where we are coming from, you need a leadership that is in charge, fully and absolutely in charge. And to be in charge means that you're mentally alert and that you are aware of what you want to do. You are self-aware, you are environmentally aware, and that you are not carpet is pulled before you. You are able to put people on their toes. They are aware that you will ask, this assignment, was it done? So that struck me. I always look for the soft issues. It's not the hard issue. The hard issues can be put together by anybody.
But the nature of things here, by virtue of our laws, the number one position in this country, the president, whoever is elected, whether he says he will be in charge or not, is in charge. So...
Oh, that's the challenge. No, that's the challenge. And that's why it caught my attention. I run a business and I can tell you that if you set your eye off the ball for any reason, you get into what they call damage control mechanisms. So leadership is about delegation, yes, but leadership is also about consequent management. Your ability to be able to let your people know that, you know what, I'll give you an example. The president of Rwanda is reputed to be able to excuse ministers out of meetings because they were not prepared. That shows someone that is in charge, that understands. So I think that, I think we should talk about the Nigerian people. Leadership must be about the people. We have come from the place where it's supply-driven. Can we come from the place where it's demand-driven? Can the people ask questions? Okay. And I keep saying this: drag the presidential candidates to the fore. Let them speak.
Now, the thing about that is, are we not
their media people?
Well, yeah, we'll get that. But are we not going to be restricting or limiting ourselves to a very large extent if we're only waiting to hear them or see them speak, and not because they've got a document of their policy action which they're reading? But you say you're not looking at the documents. No. You're listening to how they deliver it. But we know that...
It's not even delivery, really. It's not
what comes at how they speak it.
Yes. That's what's called an oomph.
Which is still a large element of delivery.
Yes, yeah.
But the thing about that is, we know that here, we're not so big on, right from the get-go, training students or people when you get to school how to speak publicly. So you have people who may not necessarily have the gift of the gab, but they are astute. They know what they're about. They have their strengths in identifying certain things. Yeah. So if you're limiting it to just that delivery, you're going to miss out on a lot of
you're confusing what I'm saying with eloquence. I'm not talking about eloquence. I'm speaking about when you are speaking to a people or to someone, you can go to the essence of what the individual is saying without really looking at the sequence, what he's saying, in terms of the tenses.
Yeah, but
the point I'm making here is that
speech.
Sorry?
Is about that speech delivery, that context. That's what we're talking about, not the eloquence. Is it?
No. I'm sure Nigerians understand exactly what I'm trying to drive at. You are in a part of the world where the presidency is almost like it's as if they are gods. And so you need to bear in mind that when somebody is elected the president, he almost has the power of life and death for the nation. And that's what the intention and the interest is, to keep querying and asking them to speak. Because it is in speech that you can decode what their dimensions are. Let me give you an instance. One of the things the guy also said, he said, I have zero tolerance to waste. That's what I heard. Now, that didn't come from his speech. It came from right inside of him. Now, you don't have to interrogate that further. So each of these daily presidential flag bearers must be put on the spot where they will be able to speak beyond the document they are carrying because it's been crafted. They're going to come out with very quality documents, but the vibe will be different. Their communication, their vibes, where they are coming from will be totally different from, and that's going to be the difference. And that will determine who you're going to trust. When
you speak about that vibe, you forget that those who are usually in that particular setting, they have a certain mindset, they know what that is about, so that their level is different from those who will be employing these people to come and serve them. So literacy level across board is different. So how they look at these candidates will be different. So might be, but we'll get your point there.
But the point is this: all the people that are, all the things our minds have been moved away from this kind of conversations to the people that are shouting on the streets, the number of people that are coming in. And that's a good thing, but it's distracting intellectual engagements with the people that are supposed to. So it's important that while they're doing that,
they're speaking to the public.
Absolutely.
So there are different publics that they will have to appeal to, as it were. Well, let's bring in my colleagues in Lagos. Guys, go ahead.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Perhaps our guest is talking about Peter Drucker's famous statement: the most important thing in communication is hearing what isn't said. And that is for the intelligent people. But for those who just want to hear what you have to say, that's perhaps another kettle of fish altogether. Now, you've spoken largely to what the presidential candidates are saying or not saying. But then Nigerians are also employing governors as well to the various states in the length and breadth of the country. And would you say that the level of communication, the political communication now, the things that the governors or governorship candidates are saying to the people, are what the people want to hear or need to hear? Because those are two different things.
Thank you. You are very correct that the communication gap, I mean, how it is quoted and communicated makes a whole lot of difference. And as Chamberlain has said, there are different publics that these guys are speaking to. But let me put it this way. It is always the elite that lead any nation. It's the elite that lead the nation. It is the work of the elite to interrogate. That 60%, 50% must come, that even if it's 30%, the elite, when the elite joins this fray of, and that's why when we started about people speaking in a manner that is undignifying, then it becomes a societal challenge because they are destroying that very percentage that leads the rest of the people. So I agree with you that, and that's why I said before, that going forward in 2023, most of the executive flag bearers must come down from their high horses and do what I call a demand-driven leadership. What do the people want? I give you an instance. I live in an estate. A particular, I think a House of Representative member came in and installed street lights, solar lights in the streets. In our estate, we have contributed money and we have more than enough lights, more than enough solar light in that estate. But because he had decided to put solar light, he went ahead and still put the solar light. So he didn't consult us. Our roads are bad and other things are bad. So if you are able to engage the people, and that's why I said leadership, governance must be about the people. We must move away where it has become, it's because I'm in charge, then it's about me. It's not about you. And that's the next thing I want to speak about. It is the turn of the people to demand from the leaders what they want done. Whenever a leader is coming and is making comments that sound as if some kind of a spirit of entitlement, you have to be careful. Those are signals. Those are signs. Or tomorrow you start telling us, oh, you didn't know. But the signs are there. So anyone who is coming to speak to Nigerians, query the individual, speak to the individual and ask him. And as the person is speaking, you will find out whether his programs are for the people. And I'm not talking about transactional programs. I'm talking about programs that come as a result of the desires and interests of the people. So whether you communicate it in a particular way or not, the most important thing is that the people are interested in seeing what can you do for them.
Mr. Pascal,
and that's the essence of leadership.
You've trailed a pretty interesting narrative, particularly with regards to what the people should watch out for. You have emphasized on what is being said from the core of the individual and not the document. And you made you used a very interesting phrase that you're looking to see, is it the king now or the god with the clay feet? And that caught my attention. And the kings of old with clay feet only had to issue decrees and put their seal on it, and it became law. But what would this king, in this case now, the Labour Party candidate, be able to do without the preponderance of the popularity of government at the National Assembly level and at the state-wide level?
If I got you right, but you are asking for me to explain what I mean by gods with clay feet. In those days, when kings are made, they're almost like gods. In fact, if you check some from mythology, some of the people that we call gods today were kings in their days. But you know, when you drew closer, you discover that these gods had legs, and these legs were feet, and they were clay, and those clays were brittle; they could break. That's what I mean by that. So externally they look goddish, but right, the foundation, they are brittle. They can't really survive the interrogation of the pressures of this of leadership and governance. Now, if I understand your other question, you are asking about how this cascades down to the sub-nationals, the state and the House of Representatives and the Senate. Now, you see, when you set the tone, that's what it's called in leadership, that's what it's called the tone at the top. I'll give you an instance. A company like, say, an MPC that is rebirthing, the managing director will come and give a speech. Everybody's looking for that, waiting for that speech. When that speech comes, it gives you an idea where everything is going to be. So that's what happens. That's why it looks as if the presidency, there is so much pressure on the presidency. It is because that's the tone. You could see the challenges, even the constitution. You could see that even the state governors during the answers, remember, you know, by the way, people are still trying to forget the answers. The answers happened. The governor ran to the president. The president said, "Go back. You are the governor of Lagos State." Now, this is what we need to begin to do as we begin to birth a new Nigeria. And my point here is this:
all right,
a new Nigeria is absolutely possible, but the Nigerian people must elect somebody that they trust. And that trust will not be seen in the document. It will be seen when they talk.
All right, so I'm sure that they heard that, and we'll see how that eventually goes. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Pascal Dudibo, who is a business and financial consultant. We will be back in a moment and then get to hear from another party. Don't go away. All right, welcome back. Ambassador Jerry Ugokwe joins us next. He is a former permanent representative of Nigeria to the United Nations offices in Vienna. Good morning. Thank you for joining us today, Your Excellency. Well, you've been a member of, you're still a member, by the way, of the APC. You've been in the House of Reps. You've vied for several positions. But as it is now, this talk about ensuring the right political communication is key, but the recent conversation making the rounds about the candidates speaking about what they intend to do, why they're seeking Nigeria's permission or Nigerians' permission to lead them with that #1 position, is what's currently going on with the SCCI, where the candidates of the PDP and the Labour Party have spoken, and many waiting for your candidate to speak. And at the moment, not many have seen him in public places and leading the charge. Is this a deliberate strategy, or he's just waiting until perhaps, the date comes for the campaigns to begin, and then he becomes a lot more visible?
I think you nailed it on the head. To start with, many people have not read through the current electoral law, which says what to do and what not to do. As you are aware, campaigns have not started. Campaigns will start on the 28th of September. And people are going around holding 10 million man march, 1 billion man march, carrying party placards, saying vote for the party. And then people are saying, no, it's not campaign, it is consultation. I wonder whoever consults on the streets of Lagos, I wonder what that consultation will end up. The truth is that maybe the electoral umpire is not equipped enough to make sure that the laws are obeyed. Because if there are some countries that I've been to where the things that are going on is enough to disqualify these parties from contesting the election. The law says 28 election campaigns will start. And you feel the streets every day, you say, this is my candidate, vote for him, whether the candidate is there or not. It is the responsibility of the party to say to party faithfuls, our campaigns will start on the 28th. Once that day gets there, we bring out our arsenals. And that's what it should be. Each time I sit down as a diplomat, having been in the United Nations offices in Vienna, and having attended so many United Nations meetings, you give a directive and then people, disobey those directives. It gives me goose pimples, because what goes through my mind is, if people can disobey such simple rules or laws before they become president, what happens when they have all the authority? Those are the things we need to consider. And I implore the media to also help us in doing this. It is very important. If some of us are not speaking, not because we cannot speak, but because we want to wait from the 28th, then we start speaking, then we start campaigning. That's the problem that I find with us. And nobody sees anything wrong with it. Whenever you say, people say they are consulting, we are deceiving ourselves. It's wrong. So we must do something about that.
Well, the thing
maybe it's too late now.
But we've also seen different political parties, including your party members, the APC, speak about certain things as well. Their strengths, what they think will ensure that Nigerians vote for them, why they think they will win the elections. They've spoken in different fora, and they keep speaking about these things. But if you're saying they've not hit the streets as of yet compared to some of the other political parties, maybe. But speaking about
just like you were asking me,
for those who just went to the streets and did what they describe as sensitization, and then perhaps the momentum that some of them seem to be enjoying, which is debatable. Is your party, your candidates, concerned or worried or threatened? Because there are many who say they are frustrated both with the APC and the PDP because they've not gotten them where they think the country should be at the moment, and as such, they don't really want to vote for any of these two political parties.
Well, if you look at what some of the parties are saying, I don't want to mention their names. Those parties are saying, when you talk about them, they say, no, either we're a new party or, a party did, better or they didn't do better. And then when you go down to what will actually happen in 2023, what they will tell you is that their candidate, they now refer to their candidate. So let me refer to our candidate. Our candidate is not Mr. APC. Our candidate is a human being. And why do I say that? I say it because our candidate, Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu, if I may say, is somebody who, I believe you're talking to me from Lagos. Somebody you know. And I say this because people are now using, where it is convenient for them, they say the party is new, forgetting that the people who are in those parties came from, these same quote-unquote old parties. In other words, you just take an old wine, you put it in a new bottle, and you say that it is the best wine in the world. That's wrong. Now, you and I know that Nigeria, unfortunately so, that once you become the president of Nigeria, things change. I'll give you a typical example. I was a young man and a special assistant to Senator Ahmed during the NPN days. Now, in those days, my principal will give me a phone and say, call Mr. President. And I call Mr. President and say, Mr. President, we are coming to Dodden Barracks. You know what happens? By the time we get to Dodden Barracks gate, President Shagari will be at the gate to welcome us. That is how important the party was then. President Shagari will leave all meetings and come to the gate of Dodden Barracks and walk the secretary of the party into his office. Right. Does that happen today? So,
we need to take a quick break. But pardon me, when we return, we'll continue from that train of thought. So we'll be right back. We're with Ambassador Jerry Ugokwe. Well, in addition to your point, just to conclude that part where before or when they become president, a lot of things change. Well, one thing that immediately comes to mind was before the current president became president, there were several promises. And upon assumption of office, a lot of things have changed. Many of the promises have not been fulfilled. Power, energy, which is huge in this country. The promises made there, among several others, many say, have not been fulfilled. Is that similar to what the point you're making about when you become president, things change?
Well, you said it. The point I want to make is that, you, Chamberlain, if you go to CNN to interview for a job, they will look at what you have done in channels. And they say, oh, you did well in channels, therefore we will hire you in CNN. The point I'm making here is that if you look at those contesting for the presidency of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, what have they done? That's what you look at. When they make promises that I will do A, B, C, D, when they get in there, the situation becomes different. The situation changes. A lot of issues come up, and some of them even will forget what they promised you and I. I am saying, look at what Asiwaju had done in Lagos. I was a student in Unilag in the early 80s. I knew how Lagos was. I was a staff of the Ministry of Works and Housing. I'm an architect by training. I worked in Lagos at, in the Ministry of Works and Housing when all the headquarters were in Lagos. I know what Lagos was in those days. Look at what Lagos is after Asiwaju was governor of Lagos State for 8 years. Those are what we look at. Look at what the person had done when he had the authority to do that. And that will give you an insight to what that person will do when you give him even a bigger responsibility. I tell people that, I lived for so many years in the United States. I worked in the US, in the government. And one of the lessons I learned in the US was when Reagan was the president of the United States of America. Reagan was an old guy. But what he did, he fished out the best minds in the US, and they were in his cabinet. Up till today, nobody will talk about development of America without Ronald Reagan. And that is the same thing that Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu did in Lagos. And that's why some of us are saying, give him the opportunity to do the same thing at the federal level. Because if he does that, Nigeria will be a different nation altogether.
There are several areas to actually follow up on that, but my colleagues in Lagos, I've got questions for Yam and Abuja, actually.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain.
Okay.
Well, Ambassador, there's something you said that I have, raised with other people who we have had to interview, and that's the importance or the supremacy of the party. You mentioned the Second Republic and the supremacy of the party over the president at the time, that he himself will be the one to come welcome the instruments, the political instruments of the party while he is in government. What is it that caused us to lose that trajectory? Because now it would seem like no one can call anyone who is elected into office into power. The governor is the leader of the party when he is governor. There are those who will call that an aberration. I don't know what you make of it. And how do we reverse that trend?
I think one of the problems that we have in Nigeria is that we keep mixing up issues. We mix up presidential democracy with the parliamentary democracy. If you watch me where I do my, I'm an associate professor with at the National Institute of Legislative Studies, and I say it every day that I don't call any governor a leader. In a presidential system of government, the governor is not the leader of the party. It is in the parliamentary system where, that person is first a parliamentarian, because before he becomes whatever he is. You come to a minister, you call him honorable minister. Why? He is not honorable minister, he's the minister, simple and short. In the UK system, which is the parliamentary system, before you become a minister, you're a member of parliament. That's why you are referred to as honorable minister. It's not the same in our own situation. This is what I teach, and I talk to students on a daily basis. Let's do things right. But, I think we just get so carried away.
If they love that... If they love the appellation so much, maybe we might as well just go back to the parliamentary system where they'll be required to speak a lot more and ask a lot more questions. Who knows if that's what they are indirectly asking for. But just one more thing before we go. The president is at the UN. He's going to be speaking. I think he'll be the first to speak about 9 a.m., I think 2 p.m. Nigerian time. So now that he is attending that, perhaps one of the last ones before he leaves, can there be any significant, if we could use the word benefit, that will accrue to us before the president leaves office?
Definitely so. I say so because as a permanent representative of Nigeria to United Nations offices in Vienna, one of my duties was to be at UNGA every September for the whole month till October. To prepare when the president comes, to prepare items the president will have to discuss, with other leaders of other nations, to prepare his speech. Now, the good thing about the UNGA and the opportunity for our president to speak is that he will address specific issues. Some of the issues, as you know, one of them, the most important one, is insecurity in Nigeria. It will create an opportunity for the president to talk to nations who can help us. Matter of security is, about putting heads together to know what to do. So it's a good opportunity for Mr. President to go there. And there are other side events, which he has a closer contact with other heads of states and leaders of nations to appeal to them to support us to address this, issue that is bedeviling Nigeria.
Ambassador Jerry Ugokwe, former permanent representative of Nigeria to the United Nations offices in Vienna. Thank you very much indeed for your time this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chamberlain. I appreciate it. My pleasure.
We've got a few messages that came through from you, and the very first one comes from Kenneth. He says, talking about issues-based campaign, short campaign time in Nigeria does not allow for issue-based campaigns. However, in Nigeria, experience has shown that campaigns are frequently used to focus attention not on issues that deserve it, but on negative issues that should not be the focus of any serious election campaign. In my opinion, he says, the short time allowed by law for campaigns in Nigeria has aided this development to a large extent. Well, actually, Kenneth, this time around, it's one of the largest. It is the largest campaign period that you have before the elections, actually. So we acknowledge your email here.
Absolutely. 6 months is quite a length of time. This one is a tweet from Henry. There's a strong reason why debates and live interaction with syndicated audiences are prioritized in other climes. Let there be a paradigm shift in the manner politicians interact with the people as 2023 electioneering campaigns start. Let their hearts speak.
Indeed. And we close with this very brief one from Omadi. He says, all presidential candidates must speak often to the people and not just throw a round document which can be written by paid experts. I believe that's the most resounding point from today's discussion.
Well, I guess that's it.
All right, well, there you go. That is the show today. We thank you all for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, I am Chamberlain, so goodbye.
Have a splendid day. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for your tweets, for your emails. We don't take them for granted. Keep them coming. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo.